Hello and welcome to Sugar, Silk and Stretch, a unique boxing podcast brought to you exclusively by Ace Podcast Nation. My name is Ben Doughty, and the complete nuisance with his back to the camera trying to show you some logo that says something like reigning champ. I'm guessing he means reigning champ of predictions is
Michael Silcolagide.
And I'm
and
Gary.
also, listen, Gary, I can't tell you how good it is to have you back again because it isn't. No, so I'm joking, of course. I'm joking. I've rehearsed that all day. Give me a bit of credit. No, you've been greatly missed, sir. Not just by us, your two co-anchors, but our audience.
I miss you, boys. You're always my highlight of the week. So I've missed talking to you. I've missed the boxing. I've missed really, but I've kept in touch with you, obviously off public. But yeah, it's been a bit of a kick up the ass, this accident, but getting better.
Do you wish to expand on that? Because I see that Bang Bang Ray Hill put a video out, and he was rather grave, saying you'd nearly died, and that was the title of the video.
Oh, I don't know what he's saying. No, but it was actually, it's not far wrong, but it's the most ridiculous accident. I was in Bulgaria, it's snowing and icy. And I literally was, I'm staying at a friend's because I don't live here. My partner in the company, Desi, she's my producing partner. And we were doing some stuff. I was actually taking an acting class here, a master class for a bunch of Bulgarian kids.
Yeah.
And it was early morning and I was in the garden moving leaves and there was some little drain thing and I leaned up. And I put my foot on, I guess it was a sheet of ice, and I slipped, and I just hit the fucking deck and literally cracked my head. And I was unconscious, alone, in about 6 inches of ice, water with blood everywhere for about an hour.
Wow.
Yeah. I woke up, and I couldn't speak, no voice, and zero. And I went to get up and my arms didn't move. My legs didn't move. I was completely paralyzed, completely. And the weirdest thing was I kept thinking, who can kill me? Because if I'm paralyzed, who can I call that I can trust to fucking kill me? Because I can't live in a box like this. It was like the scariest thing ever. And I lay there for about another hour. And eventually I got a little bit of voice back and help. And someone heard me and Desi come running out and the ambulance and was in hospital a week. And about the third day, I started getting feeling and everything back. I don't know much about spine, C5, C6, but they said the trauma, it was very traumatic, although I didn't break anything. But they said the trauma was prior from boxing, but I've been so abusive around boxing. I've never had an issue, but they said I should fully recover. If I get back to normal, they said you still have trauma from earlier, but if that's fine because I've never known I've had trauma. So I've always done everything crazy with my body and never had an issue. So hopefully I'll get back. But it was a very interesting week. I think I talked to you, Ben, about I had a lot of time on my own. I've been about 2 weeks. I've been on my own and in a room. Desi was traveling, doing work and stuff. So I was in the hospital about a week, then they let me out, and then I went and I got this Airbnb place, and I was in a room alone for about a week. And normally I'm on the computer doing stuff, and I just stopped and I started writing, and I started just evaluating the value of life and what's important to me. And it's been quite a interesting journey. So I'm on the mend. Still have little bits of numbness in my right hand and right leg, but I mean, I'm doing everything. I'm running around and doing everything like I did, but not 100%. And I hopefully will start training again in about a week. And then I'll be in London with you boys, with you, Ben, on the 10th.
Sounds good to me.
Yes.
And like you said, Gary,
I had in that time, Gary, I also had numbness in my partner. And that was kind of caused us a little bit of a setback. My partner, Sugar.
What, you had numbness? What, with me? Yeah. Well, yeah, I was out in sympathy for Gary. The thing is, the biggest thing I think that Gary's probably benefited from part of his rehab, which he shared with me, obviously, because we're closer friends, you see. So he shared a video of him. They were trying to mobilize him because for a couple of days he couldn't move at all, and then he was doing these kind of hip thrusts. And I reckon Gary's carnal technique has probably got better, if it could even get any better, because he was doing all that kind of work with his pelvis, you know. And I think he did it deliberately because he just wanted to work on that one side of his game that he thought could do with a bit of, you know, enhancement.
Yes. Now my thrust is at 80%.
Brilliant.
I can't walk.
Listen, guys, moving on to matters more pugilistic. Obviously, the whole boxing world this weekend is revolving around the mega show in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. If we can, I would like to focus on the three main heavyweight bouts. The point has been made that 6 of the Ring Magazine's top 10 heavyweights are active on this card tomorrow night.
There were only 4.
Say again?
I thought there were only 4.
Well, 6 of the Ring Magazine's top 10 heavyweights are there. I guess Dubois must be one of them. Say again?
Who are the fights?
If you let me do it, I will do it for you, and I'll break it down a little slicker.
You're taking a circuitous route, Gary.
Before you get into it, Ben, which I'm very, very excited to, hear you introduce what we're doing. But I'm very excited. Only of late, I think because of this, but it was maybe a month or two prior. I certainly saw his last fight. It's the cruiserweight, Aussie cruiserweight, who I think is an outstanding prospect. Huh?
He is. All right, let's talk about him first.
Because, I'm brand new to him, but I saw his last fight. I just loved the mentality, the style, the speed, the power.
Well, it's interesting with him, Gary, because he does look very good. When he beat, remind me of the British kid he beat in the UK. It was a guy that was kind of lucky to be sharing a ring with him, to be honest. But he looked very impressive, and he became a bit of an overnight sensation in the UK because of it. But what's happened, and I think I may have discussed this with you, Silk, in a previous show. Basically, he's fighting Ellis Zorro on the card tomorrow night. He was the IBF cruiserweight champion at the time when the match was made, but the IBF will not permit him the voluntary defence, and he's vacated the title because they won't let him do it because he has signed for life-changing money a 2-fight deal with the Saudi promoters, and he said, "Okay, we'll stuff the belt then. I'm going to fight Ellis Zorro on this big card anyway." Marcus Breedis, they were enforcing the mandatory challengers' rights, Marcus Breedis, but he is injured and he's okay. He was okay with Opitar fighting Ellis Zorro, and he was prepared to wait, but he's had to give up the belt in any case.
Well, I can't really comment on a fair assessment because I only saw the one fight. You said the guy shouldn't have been in with him, so it's not really a good assessment. But what I did see was extremely exciting for me. But again, it's all against opposition. I didn't know the opposition, and I really don't know the opposition tomorrow. Who is he, Ben? Who's fighting?
So he's one of the 6 heavyweights fighting.
No,
he's a cruiserweight. Gary wanted to talk about the cruiserweight first. Then I'll get to the. There's more heavyweights than that fight.
He's a very, very exciting fighter for me. So I really like what I saw, but again, I don't know the opposition. And
he beat Jordan Thompson, as Julian McGowan just pointed out. He beat Jordan Thompson in the UK. A couple of months back, and that was the first time I'd ever seen him. That was the first time I'd seen him as well. And let's say he looks impressive, and I think it's a sad situation, really. But in a way, what he's proved by dropping the IBF cruiserweight belt, he's proved again that fighters don't have the same reverence for world titles and the straps as they used to, and they will drop them strategically
for money. But it's money, right? Prize fighting,
absolutely. But
because at the end of the day, for me, we all want to be world champion, but let's be honest, it's extremely rare you get unified. So you're really only 1 in 4. So even when you win a belt, you're not world champion. If you're really honest, you've got one version of 4 belts in essence. So why bother? You may as well earn the big bucks or get unified, right? If you want that title,
Sure. It seems like his hands were tied, quite honestly. But so just to break it down, Silk, the 3 principal heavyweight fights on the card tomorrow. I'd like to start with Jarrell Big Baby Miller versus Daniel Dubois. I don't know if you see the weigh-in, fellas, but there's a 100-pound weight disparity between them. Did you see it, Michael?
How much?
Basically, Dubois weighed 239 pounds, at the weigh-in today. Miller weighed 333. That is a 94-pound weight disparity in Miller's favour. He doesn't look remotely fit, I've got to tell you.
he doesn't even look that big. Like compared to his last fight that I saw him fight, how much weight did he gain?
I'm not sure. He's always been in well over 300 pounds, I believe.
It's interesting at that weight because they say he's got a great engine. So I'm not a fan, to be honest. I did see him. I saw a couple of his fights. I thought they were unimpressive. Not a puncher, more of a volume bully, kind of using the weight, and he wears people down. But you know what? I was thinking that Dubois, if it could be a beautiful fight for him if he's really sharp and he literally penetrates, bang, 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 all over. You know what I mean? If he gets that chance to be electrically fast against a huge fat guy and just execute him, it could be a shocker for the books. But I keep seeing this vision of Dubois just catching him really crisp, sharp, clean, and certainly, because I think it'd be great if Miller goes to Dubois. The only problem we have, as you know, is if he hits Dubois, there's issues. His history has been a little bit, once he gets touched, he seems to maybe psychologically meltdown. And
I believe Baby Miller is going to beat Dubois. I think he's a strong enough puncher to hurt him. He's consistent. He throws good combinations. He's slick. I mean, I don't know where this added weight keeps coming from, and I don't know if that's going to make a difference in his conditioning, or if he's throwing. You would think he weighs more, so you'd think he would hit harder, but I don't know. I don't think I wasn't. Dubois seems a little pedestrian for him, for his style, which is a lot slicker, a lot cleaner. He's got that confidence when he boxes.
Certainly, if there's going to be an upset, most people are tagging it there. Most people are saying that is the danger one of an upset. Because
they believe Dubois is going to win.
Which way?
No, that's what I'm trying to tell you. He's a favorite, but
which way is it going for the upset? But most people don't think. I mean, what I've seen,
Dubois is a betting favorite.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Because it seems like the general consensus is that Baby Miller will be too big for him. But
yeah, not even.
Well, that'll be it. Let's just have a pause. So I'm going on Dubois knockout.
You're going Dubois?
Yeah.
I'm going Big Baby late knockout.
Ben?
Mid-late.
I'm going to tip the Big Baby as well. No allegiance. I'm friendly with Daniel Dubois. Apparently, I took him on the pads when he was 9 years old at the Repton. I know Baby Miller to an extent because I'm friendly with his publicist.
With him. He has friends with everybody. And then
you
did an interview, right?
Go on, let's talk one at a time, and we can all do a show then. Go on.
I'm sorry, Michael. You just did an interview with Baby Miller, right?
I did, yeah. And the reason I did that and got the access backstage at Wembley when they had the initial press conference was because I'm friendly with his publicist, who's a wonderful woman called Alvina Alston. And this is the thing, you see, because she is such a lovely person and she's so driven and ambitious and successful and just charming that there's a limit to a lot. Some of my followers might have thought, why didn't you go for the jugular with Miller? He's a drug cheat, you know what I mean? And he's a serial drug cheat. And this is a disgrace that he's even on a big card getting a big opportunity. Why didn't you stick it to him? But it's not completely straightforward, is it? When someone's invited you back into that situation and you have these relationships with people. I mean, I did ask him obviously about that, but some people are saying he shouldn't be fighting at all, and this is everything's wrong with boxing.
You didn't go to the body, huh? You kept it clean.
I stood off a little bit. Let's put it that way. I did because it's difficult.
Well, based on your
situation.
Based on your information, you had to be kind of respectful of the access due to the woman to execute her client would be.
Otherwise, you get no interview. What you do, you don't get anything. I got him to open up a bit, and I got a pretty decent interview. And a lot of people said I've got more of a feel for his personality now. I wouldn't have got that if I'd have wanted to come like the big hardliner. No.
Did you talk about drugs?
Yeah, I said I gave him opportunity to talk about it, and he said Eddie Hearn is a hypocrite. He said, look at all the fighters he's had, or matchroom fighters that have failed tests since I did. He said the thing that I failed for wasn't even a steroid, and he said, and they just legalized it again in Las Vegas. He said, but nobody tells you that. He said, but after this fight, or when I'm a world champion, he said I will release all the documents and relevant stuff, and people will see that I've been misrepresented. That's what he said.
Okay, so we have Juan Dubois in Ben, and Gary is no. Ben is Davey Miller.
Two baby
Millers and one Dubois. We got to write this down.
I'll remember. It's all right, Silk. I will remember it. You just keep looking pretty.
I don't know about that.
No, you're right. We need to write it down. Can one of the fans please write it down in the comments? Because what we won't forget, but Silk will change his mind next week and say, "No, you said this. You said this," and I'll have to show him the footage back and everything. That's what's going to happen.
Okay. All right. Okay. So, I mean, hey, listen. Reigning champ. That's all I got to say.
Yeah. Do you know what, Gary? What before we get into the other predictions, he is currently leading by 5-1 this game. I am 4-3. He is 5-1. You are 4-2 because you missed some of them, but that's where we're at.
Okay, so I'm only one behind you, Silk.
Yeah. You're only one in front of me.
And I've got 2 games in hand.
Yeah, and a game in the hand, as they say. Now listen.
It's worth 2 in the bush.
Okay, listen. The next one I would like to deal with, because it is billed as the semi wind-up as opposed to the main event, is Joseph Parker versus Deontay Wilder. You first, Silk?
Boy, I don't know. Gary, you go first.
Well, I'll surprise you, boys. Having watched all of the heavyweights over the last 12, 18 months, I think that Joseph Parker is the most improved of all. As much as he lost against Joe Joyce, he's like on a 4-win streak now, I think. But I don't know if it's Andy Lee. I just see him coming on in leaps and bounds, and I think that he's going to upset the apple cart.
Okay.
Yeah. And also, you've got to remember, Wilder's boxed 1 round in 2 years. So
that's right.
Will that take a play?
Whereas Parker been very active since he lost to Joe Joyce.
This is his fourth fight this year, which will be 3 wins. It's Wilder has come off 2 years, 1 round in 2 years, and the past earlier 3 fights he got beat. So he's 3 losses and 1 round in 2 years. So that's a little bit.
That is. It seems like a lot to cover if you were to go on ordinary circumstances, but boxers don't fight under, as you know, ordinary circumstances. There are fighters that could fight not for a year or 2 and come back and still do something.
But my argument,
as Sugar Ray did against Marvin Hagler, for instance.
Yeah, my argument may come to play, but we never got to see it, and that would be, what did Fury take out of Wilder in the 3 fights? Because the fight was that quick on the victory that he won in a round. We never got to know if he's gone over the edge, if he's shot. So we don't know. It's a mystery to me. But so he's a mystery, Wilder. But Parker to me is not a mystery. Parker is a proven winner the last 18 months, and for me, is in a great space. So I think that
Wilder's been doing a lot of work. And I don't know anything about his camp or anything, but I think during this time that he's had off, he's been doing a lot of work on shoring up his offense, even shoring up his defense. He already has like extremely quick release. We all know about his power. He's got that legendary right hand, but I think his left hand can be significantly used too. I think the guys that he's working with, one of them being a real fighter, a guy who really competed, and he's going to like kind of shore up the things that he'd been kind of loose on before. Whether that's going to allow him or make him stay more stationary and kind of and test the waters, I don't know if that's going to be good or not, because the beard has nothing to do with what shape you're in. Being able to take a shot. I think if this kid hits him, if Parker hits him, it's still going to be a problem because Parker can punch. And Parker has really good hands. He lets his hands go and he can throw hooks, straight punches, all the rest of that. My problem with Parker is I'm not quite sure about his heart. He definitely doesn't have the same tank as Wilder.
Yeah.
I think that you're going to get a shock. I think the world's going to get a shock because it's one thing spending 2 years on the mitts, doing all this.
No, but not mitts.
No, hear me out. Hear me. Let me speak. 2 years on the mitts, false sense of security, no ring time. All of a sudden, you get in and someone's hitting your back. It ain't sparring. It ain't controlled. And I think he could get a very fast wake up to his welcome back to the game.
Oh, he really could. I do believe that Parker, if Parker is going to win this, he has to make it a 3-round fight. He has to go all in. All in. Otherwise, he's going to have to do the absolute opposite and be all out until late and get him late. But he can, and I don't think he has that kind of defensive, he doesn't have those defensive attributes to make it late. He'd be better off going all in and not waiting because Wilder, his reflex, he gets off immediately. And if you're not getting off first, if you're waiting, you're dead. That's it.
Can we talk about weight for a second? With Miller coming in at 333 pounds, interestingly, at the other end of the spectrum, Wilder stepped on the scales today at 213 pounds. Proper old school heavyweight. So,
oh, yeah. Yeah.
And the other guy, Parker, I believe, was 245.6. So he's like a modern-sized average heavyweight nowadays.
Yeah.
Wilder, back in the old school of, under 215 pounds. Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier, etc. Yeah.
And I think that's I think that's to his advantage. He's like a lot of these guys are pudgy. They go in there and they don't really show the kind of work attribute that you need. It's like you're coming in like that, like with all that kind of like water weight on you and fat and water weight, blubber, all this, that kind of stuff. It's like, come on, man, you are not giving yourself the best chance to win. If it gets down to a fight of endurance, generally it's over.
Well, I don't want to segue back into the other one again, but Miller does look very soft and kind of fat and he looks like a used king-size duvet held out on the scales, right? And the thing is, somebody was saying on my Facebook just a minute ago that this is ridiculous when you've got a 100-pound weight gap between Miller and Dubois, and what if something happens, and what this shouldn't be allowed. But I agree with you, Silken. It's not an advantage after a certain point, and it doesn't seem to matter as much once a guy is past, is a strong heavyweight who's past about the 215, 220-pound mark. Do you know what I mean? Joe Lewis was outweighed by 60-odd pounds for Primo Canera, and he absolutely bettered him. So weight is not just carte blanche an advantage, is it?
No, it isn't. Skills are your advantage. Skills are your advantage. That's it.
Yeah.
So, Ben, here you go. What's your prediction?
For this one, I am predicting Parker will give Wilder problems and he may look at assaults and he'll be behind when he connects and scores a KO. I got Wilder by KO, maybe against the runner play after some scares, and maybe even commentators writing him off. I don't think he'll carry him early necessarily. I think maybe it'll go 5 or 6 rounds before Wilder lowers a boom.
As I said, I don't like the way Parker responds to pressure when the fight gets busy. He tends to like hibernate. You know what I mean? And I know Deontay's got that. His reflex is incredible. His punch accuracy, his power. Obviously, he lets his hands go at any time. He's quick on the draw. He's he has stopping power. I think that's what's going to do it. I think he can get him out maybe somewhere between 3 and 5. But I do believe Parker does have a chance because Wilder's, again, his resiliency is not like a 10. He's not like he has Rocky Marciano's chin. It's an issue. So
this is streamlined so far. We've got 2 Millers and a Dubois over there, right? And then we've got 2 Wilders and a Parker over there. So me and you are running in tandem right now, Silk.
And I'm going I'm going to go Parker.
You're against the grain. Well, we know that's you, Gary. Gary was like that when he was young too, right? When he was a kid in school, he always ran a different way. I like that.
Well,
I'm very much like do it different. I like that.
You've been described as famously as a contrarian yourself. Let us remember.
You know what I've done over the last 20 years? I've bet the winner on the national about 5 times.
Have you? Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And won.
Yeah.
Well, you picked the Grand National winner 5 times. What's your
Maybe-
system there?
I just fancy horses that I fancy, and I'm not a big horse guy. Like, I missed that in England because on a Saturday I used to go do the Scoop Six. It's like $10 or something for 6 horses, and I do maybe 3 times. So I'd have three different 6, and if you get them all, and I used to win often. Not big money, but a couple £100 for like a $6 bet or something, $5 a bet, so I mean, just read the form and then look at the horses, look at the skin and look at the way they look and the condition when they come out, the way they walk. I mean, I think I've got a natural feel for that. But I used to love just sitting there with my brother. We'd watch it on a Saturday and cook. Missed that because I've not done it in 20 odd years. I'm not a gambling man, but I did like the horses. So no, I get not psychic, but I get feelings, and I often go with them. And more often than not, when I don't go, they normally come to fruition. So I have a strange thing that Dubois, believe it or not, is going to do like an execution job, almost like Baby Miller, one of them knockouts where he falls forward.
Yeah,
that kind of a shock.
Alan Hearns-Duran.
Yeah, and then I think Parker's going to upset a very disheveled, uncoordinated, like everything that they're saying about Wilder, that he's got all this game plan into. I think it's going to be extremely unraveled, and I think Parker's going to put in a pitch perfect performance. That's what I believe.
That's the way the lines are drawn so far. So the main event, entering the ring less, apparently about 11:45 p.m. UK time tomorrow night, is Anthony Joshua versus the Southpaw Otto Wallin. This is another one, though. People are saying this could be a banana skin for Anthony Joshua. I don't know which one of you wants to come in first, because last time I invited Silk to do first, he threw it to you. So, guys, whoever
last on this
first,
I go last on this one.
Go on then, Silk.
No, I was going to say, Ben, why don't you go first? You haven't gone first yet.
Okay, I'll go first. No problem. Right. Joshua looks like he's in an identity crisis at a time when you really shouldn't be. He's way too long in the tooth and too experienced and too decorated for someone's trying to be still trying to figure out his personality and his style in the ring. Prior to knocking out Robert Helenius with that big right hand back in the summer, when he was supposed to fight Dylan White, who failed a drug test, you might recall. And you might also recall that the replacement, Robert Helenius, ended up testing positive for a banned substance anyway, which made it all seem all the more ludicrous. But Joshua looked pretty bad and tentative and clueless until he threw that combination, the double jab and a right hand, and closed the show. So people figure he's right for the taking. Wallin is a southpaw, which we know Joshua has form, not particularly good form with southpaws. Although, Usyk, the thing is, there's the southpaws and there's Alexander Usyk, aren't they? Wallin and Usyk are not the same thing. I looked at Wallin's last fight, which was a kind of off-the-radar 12-round split decision win over Murat Gassiev, the former cruiserweight. It was in Russia somewhere, and it looked very tepid. He just about squeaked home. I didn't watch the whole fight. I saw highlights, but to be honest with you, there were no highlights. It looked like the most tepid sparring session you've ever seen, honestly. It's almost bizarre if you ever look at it. And that's what he's coming into. I think he's one reason why I rate Wallin, or his chances perhaps, as well as Joshua's signs of either decline or confusion, are that he has Joey Gamarch in his corner, who I think is a great trainer. I know he is firsthand, actually. Underrated, quiet guy. But I still fancy Joshua's going to win one way or another. I think Joshua on points, actually. I think it might not be a particularly impressive performance. I think Joshua will get home on points.
I'm kind of leaning the same way as well. I mean, Wallin is a big guy, but he fights small. He lets his hands go a lot. He throws a lot of combinations. He's got a quick release. All those things that are going to give or can give Joshua a problem. The thing, they do have history. They've sparred before. And they were sparring partners for a while. And generally it tends to go, I would tend to think, I don't know myself, but I would tend to think that Anthony Joshua dominated that sparring. If not,
Do you know they're boxing the amateurs? They're boxing the amateurs.
Oh, did they? What happened
Yes.
there?
Joshua won.
Yeah. See, and that's the thing. So that's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at like it doesn't karmically kind of like work for Wallen in this.
Yeah.
Everything seems to be against him, and I don't know if he's the type of an individual, that headstrong individual that's going to say like F everything. I'm just going in and I'm gonna drop this guy. I'm gonna beat this guy. I'm gonna give these people a performance of my life. He seems to be a very upstanding, very polite, very respectful, and very, stay in your lane type fighter. I don't like he boxes. That's what his style preaches to me. So he'd have to come out of that style in order to do that. I don't know if he can. Obviously he's big enough. He hits hard enough, and he's not a one-punch knockout guy, but he'll put numbers together. I think he can get out to an early lead because he has an extensive, he has a good amateur background. So he can get out to a good lead, comfortable lead. But I think Joshua's going to come in down the stretch and stop him. Joshua does have power, and he has stamina and he's consistent. He'll try.
Yeah. Gary?
And I'm also assuming that Joshua's trainers have developed him from where we last saw him.
Well, this is the interesting point, and that's where I'll take a question from Saj Ali. Now you mentioned that, Silk. He says, "What do you think of the Joshua Ben Davison dynamic?" He's not working with Derek James because I guess he was busy with whoever he was busy with, maybe Charlo, whatever. But he's been working with Ben Davison, who you'll be familiar with, who trained Billy Joe Saunders and Tyson Fury. Some people have made a big deal that Fury seemed to improve, certainly against Wilder, at least when he moved to Sugar Hill Stewart, and the more aggressive kind of ethos that he seemed to be teaching and encouraging. But Ben Davison has been looking after Anthony Joshua. Whether the arrangement is going to be ongoing or whether they're just working together for this fight is not clear. But he has Ben Davison in for this camp, and that's who he will have in the corner. And Saj is asking us what we think of that dynamic.
Should we get into that after my prediction?
Yeah, and if you want to touch on the Davison thing, we can do as well afterwards.
I think Davison is a good thing for Joshua. I think he's a stable, familiar. He's not. They all talk like he's brand new. He knows him. He's known him quite some time. I think what Joshua needs more than anything is mental. I think that he needs a certain comfort. I think that when you go to a new trainer in America, again, you're the fish out of water. It takes a while to get comfortable. People are watching you. You get pressured again. It's always pressure with him. He puts himself under pressure. I think Davidson takes all the pressure away from him, and they just get on with it. And I think that will be a good thing for him. What I find a bit embarrassing about the whole thing with Joshua is this. Look, if you're a plumber and you go and do a job and you've been doing it 10 years, 20 years, you just go and do the job. You don't have to get psyched up for it and all this bullshit. This whole game he plays, that like he comes in, he's smiling one day, next day he's serious, next day I'm in fight mode. It's all right. Like you can either fight, you can't fight. Like, please. Yeah. For me, that's showing a lack of experience. You look at Manny Pacquiao when he used to walk into the ring, he was waving and smiling. Why? He's ready. He's going to get to, when the bell rings, it's automatic. So all this psychological thing, it's got so much in Joshua's head now that he has to now plan how he's going to be at the press conference. It's like, relax, just go.
He seems to have just changed his mind from being Oscar De La Hoya to Sonny Liston. He seems to have flipped over to, that's
get ready and go.
He's always like that. He's always like, he wears the headphones because he wants to divorce himself from everything out there. It's like, no, be in the moment. Be okay with being in the moment. But he'd rather wear the headphones and cancel everything else that's going on instead of attaching himself to what is going on. That's his way of doing it. Everyone has a way of doing it.
I understand, but for me, it's exhausting. For me, I mean, you prep, you do as much as relax as you can, and then you get ready for the fight on the night and you get yourself in a space. But to be in that space all the time must be exhausting. He's constantly trying to pretend that he's getting ready to fight. Just train, eat, sleep. On the day of the fight, get ready.
And that's exactly what I'm saying, Gary. I think he needs somebody to program him properly. I think he hasn't been programmed.
I think Ben will be a very positive thing for the fact that he will take a lot of the pressure off him. He will get it back to simplicities with somebody's comfortable with. He just have to prove to Ben. He gets a new trainer, they're working on all these things. He's got to show now he's even better. So all this stress. He's got to a certain point in his career where, respectfully, and the same as Wilder. This is why, the 2 years learning shit. I don't think he can learn too much. He is what he is. He's an animal of habit. It's worked.
What does it?
At 43 fights with 42 knockouts, who wants to teach him anything? Come on. I mean, he's done it. He had 3 fights with Fury, arguably the best heavyweight of this century, or one of them. And he's got beat.
Not this century.
Well, I mean,
21st century. Maybe.
No, let's talk about decade or half decade.
No. But what I'm saying is that, it's arguable because basically, whether or not you put him in the league of Ali and all these guys doesn't matter. He would give anyone trouble at the size he is, and he moves, and let's not get into that.
Who is the greatest heavyweight?
Well, basically, he lost to the best heavyweight we have. On both times, it was very dynamic, to the point that he knocked him down in the 11th, almost didn't get up. He was always in the game. He showed a lot of heart. So he's really only lost a couple of fights, and epic fights. How much they're going to teach him now, I don't know. But I think when the fight goes, I think the one thing that Wilder is this instinctual coil spring that he just throws it and it hits you. And I don't think you can. I think he's got a natural thing that and it works, and it regularly works. And I think you've got to be very careful to try and change that, because once he starts overthinking boxing and that instinct goes, that animal, it's like a cobra, bang, and I don't think he knows half the time when he knocks people out that he's actually done it. So to get him to start thinking too much now, I think would be a detriment. But
sticking with Joshua,
I think that Joshua will win. I think he'll probably knock Wallin out. And I think we'll get a good performance from him. But again, I'm a little turned. It's a bit amateurish, this whole, for me. I understand what Silk says, that's his way, but the last couple of fights, he seems very heady,
I was actually agreeing with you that
he wasn't going the other direction.
Yeah, with the earphones, he's trying to he's trying to get himself out of the reality of what.
Just because he's constantly in it, like, why you just don't be in it,
One of the things Abid Ali has said here, I never understood why Joshua wanted Eddie to ask him questions at the press conference, and why he's been bagging out that Asian presenter. What that is, I think, Abid, I don't think he likes Dev Sani. The guy, the young, good-looking Asian kid who does who's the MC for these Queensberry shows, and he hosts all the Frank Warren press conferences, and he's been doing a lot of interviews out in Riyadh this week. Joshua clearly doesn't like him and doesn't want to give him any time or any personality.
Why not?
I think probably because he's Frank Warren's man. And think about Dev Sani, because he's an MC and a journalist, and he's sitting pretty in a good position right now with the access he's got. He's very opinionated, as people are today on Twitter and the like, or it's called X these days, isn't it? But and he's probably slagged off Joshua a whole bunch of times, or he's probably minimised his performances, and he's probably said a whole bunch. Some people say that Dev Sani is nothing more than Frank Warren's mouthpiece. Given the massive rivalry,
it's a little bit of a he asks stupid questions sometimes. He tries to get reactions out of people. He tries to wind people up. Like today at the press conference, or yesterday, everyone said the piece, and then he push for, you've got anything to say to anyone else? And he was constantly trying to get people to interact.
Did you hear Joseph Parker told him to shut up and don't ask silly questions?
Yeah, don't ask silly questions. Yeah.
What was it? What was he said? He said, "Will you be bringing?" Did Wilder said he might need to bring a towel with him or something? Or
no. He said Wilder said bring your pillow and a blanket.
Pillow.
Yeah. And then he said, "Are you going to bring your pillow and a blanket?" And Parker said, "Don't even talk to me. Stupid question."
Yeah. Get out. Yeah, which is fair enough because
and the guy knows fuck all about boxing. Really, when you listen to him, he knows zero. In fact, minus.
Well, do you know what, Gary? he was saying at the press conference, he said, this is the biggest assemblage of talent on the same card in boxing history. So I showed him the Larry Holmes Ernie Shavers rematch bill that had Sugar Ray Leonard, Wilfredo Gomez, and Roberto Duran on the undercard.
Yeah,
And he
I
said,
mean,
oh, yeah, thanks. All right. In future, I'm going to reference that and say it's the best one since 1979.
He doesn't have a clue. He's actually quite inappropriate and insensitive toward fighters because he's never done it and he doesn't have a clue what he's getting into. How he's in the position he's in, I don't know. Maybe he gives a good blowjob, but he's
ratings coming, Gary. The views.
Yeah, no, but you can fucking say it because you know what?
You can't underrate something.
You know what? I tell you one thing I'm offended by. It's like, you know what? We're doing this podcast and we all are very qualified to do it.
Yes.
If you want to be an MC, great. If you want to be a journalist, great. But don't come into the fight game and throwing your opinion and interacting with fighters, asking ridiculous questions to a former world champion saying, are you going to bring a pillow? Like, what a insensitive fucking idiot question is that? Anyone who could say that shouldn't be in the game. And so I say it like, I say it for what it is.
Do you know, Gary, there was a guy on BBC One. Remember when BBC One started showing fights a little while ago? You might have lived in the States already, but they showed De La Hoya versus Vargas and things like that. And in the early 2000s, 2002-ish, they started showing fights for a while, the BBC. And they had this lousy jack of all trades presenter, commentator type guy. And when De La Hoya stopped Vargas, and you remember what a bad blood grudge match that was as well, right? There was an amazing flurry from De La Hoya, savage combination puncher Oscar, and a fantastic finisher, yeah? And Vargas is bloodied in the corner and, bloody but unbowed, and the referee intervenes. And the guy said to Richie Woodall, I've forgotten his name quite fittingly, he said, in a way, Richie, although you're disappointed because you lost, in a way you must be quite relieved as well because you think, at least he stopped hitting me. And Woodall gave him a look of disgust and said, you're never pleased when that happens. Because they can't relate to fighters, you understand?
No, and he does it on a constant. This is not an attack on his. I don't know if he's a nice person or not. That's not the issue. But what he is an optimist. Not optimist. What is these guys who jump onto a situation and run with it? But opportunist. And he's put himself in a good position. Good luck to him. I'm all for people earning money, but please, if you're going to do this fucking business, learn something about it. Get a little bit of sensibility about you. Think before you speak to world champion fighters. Are you going to bring a pillow and a blanket to the fucking ring? Like, just be a fight. How ridiculous. Educate yourself somewhat, and if I was him, I would stay in the sport in a position that he knows something about, and that may be doing something, but certainly not asking poignant questions to fighters that he has no insight to, and the questions, quite frankly, are fucking boring to the audience. And
also they've got all the eye candy, those birds on the TV nowadays, haven't they, on both sides of the Atlantic? Fellas,
it's pathetic.
What do you think, Silk, of the eye candy presenter interviewers?
Well, girls,
he isn't my idea of eye candy. When
I'm talking about what do you think of the girls and stuff? They've got a lot of
the girls.
They've got a lot of birds on TV now. A lot of women, glamorous women who don't really know much about boxing. It seems safe to say, but they're on the camera because they look nice.
It's the inclusive society of today. They do that in American football as well. They have a lot of women that obviously have not played professional football at an NFL level, which and granted, some of the guys that are calling haven't played at that level as well, but without a doubt, 100% of the women never have. And so they want to give everyone a question from, I guess, different aspects and positions. I think they want to do that with boxing, but boxing is a little bit more specialized. Like, what happens with boxing is, like, everyone's played football over here anyway. Everyone's played American football. So to some extent, and even creatively, I mean, like just with your family, you play it, you experience it. With boxing, you don't experience it unless you've really competed. And so few people have competed that it's kind of hard to find somebody that's really good that can talk about boxing and explain what's happening, and at the same time give them what they need, which is the smiles and the everyone come closer to the energy.
You know what, Silka? I love women in. I love the fact that the women have come into the sport now. Finally, because even when they were not, I used to feel bad because I used to watch the fights, and the women's fights, they were more committed and better fights than the men fights, and they get no money. They were heroic and amazing. So I'm so thrilled for women because they deserve to get a position in this sport. But on the subject that you're talking about, this glamour situation, there's so many amazing women who know the sport that could be talking about it. I'm great friends with Lucia Riker and some of the great women in the game. Let's get some people. And that, but again, it's like the man I'm talking about. What's his name? This guy,
Dev Sani.
Yeah, it's like, if you're going to put people in positions, I'm not talking about men or women. I'm talking about people who have an education on what they're talking about. So he should not be doing what he's doing, and they should get the women that are qualified to do the interviews. And then if you want to make more glamorous for the sport, I'm all for that. Beautiful women, but put them in a position that But
can't they just tell us what round it is?
I'm definitely for
there are excesses of brilliant women in boxing, and let's get some of them. Jackie Callan. Let's get women who know the game.
Yeah. Lucia Riker, without a doubt. I'm in for that.
Lucia Riker is amazing. I mean, there's so many. You could bring back some of the great fighters and young people. You can get people who've never fought but are really knowledgeable about the game. And up to date.
The thing is, Gary, there's knowledge on the technical stuff, like what's in the record book, and then there's imparting what you feel the fighter is feeling at this time. And that's generally why you go to the fighter, to get that opinion. Anyone can go to the stats, and that's for anybody. But when you're talking about how a fighter is feeling at this point and what the experience is like,
but there's another aspect,
being able to impart that to the people, what a fighter is going through at this.
Yes, there's the emotional side.
That's what's missing. That's what's.
Well, I'll tell you a quick thing. I love the woman's. The female injection into the fight game, because I'm not all into this macho boxing. No, I love the sensitivity of the questions that women can ask, as long as they're educated questions. It's like, film. I love women working with female directors because, now there's more and more female directors in film. They bring a sensibility, a sensitivity. They're brilliant. And so it's only a plus. My argument is not male or female. It's just to have some form of education, and that goes to the guy Seb. I don't even know his name. That's how, when I get interested in someone, I'll hear the name once, I'll never forget it. I don't know this guy's name, and I've seen him 1,000.
It's a charisma too. I mean, those are the things that attract you.
I think
everyone's opinion of charisma.
Well, but he knows what all.
Varies.
Embarrassing to have him talk about anything to do with boxing.
So, if we recap then, just so we're all clear on it and we don't argue about it on Sunday night. Silk
doesn't come with the saccharin.
Myself and Silk are both picking Baby Miller, and we're also both picking Deontay Wilder by KO. Me and Silk are in line on that one. We're both picking Joshua as well. I say maybe points, he says by KO. So me and Silk are the same. So Silk, whatever you do, please don't forget this. This is easy for you to remember. Me and you, the same this week. Three the same predictions, no collusion.
That would be you and I.
I'm saying Dubois executes Baby Miller.
Yeah.
I'm saying Joseph Parker exposes Deontay Wilder in a way, meaning I mean he does expose him that he's not a great fighter. I think he exposes where he's at right now and where Parker's at. So I think he's going to beat him more easily than you think, which is a shock.
And part of me agrees with you on that. I think Parker could do it, but I just don't think he's going to.
Okay, and then I think on the big fight, I think Joshua is just too much for this guy. Not that he's. Okay. I just saw. I watched it. I haven't seen that much of him, but I watched the last fight that they're all saying was a great fight. Gassian, right?
Yeah.
It was a terrible fight.
It was awful. I said that to you. It was like a tepid
Awful.
sparring session.
Which fight is this?
The other heavyweight that I think is appalling. I've watched like every fight.
Hrgovic.
I think he's a terrible fighter.
He's on the bill too. He's
Terrible.
fighting Mark Demori, right? He's fighting Mark Demori.
But listen, if they look the heavyweights at the top right now, if you look at them now and their skill level and their ability level don't compare. So how can the people behind them be better than the ones we're looking at here? They can only be worse.
Who are we talking about? In the rankings or?
Yeah, we're talking about heavyweights today. We're just talking about these other heavyweights that were terrible. And I'm just saying, if they're taking an example from what's above them, you know, they don't. It's not like they have a lot to choose from in terms of emulating a positive.
For what it's worth, Flip Hrgovic is also on the bill. I believe he's fighting Mark Demori, who was wheeled out for David Haye several years ago as a comeback opponent, about 7 years ago, and got bombed out pretty quick. You have Dimitri Bivol on the card, so one of the best fighters in the world anyway, I would argue.
Yeah.
Against Lyndon Arthur, who's well out of his depth, people tend to feel, Gary.
Yeah, it looks like it's you know, you can build a fight and you know, he's got a great jab and all of this, but I think there's levels, and I think if Lyndon Arthur can't beat
Anthony Yard,
how's he gonna and how's he gonna be the Canelo Slayer? You know, it seems like it's a big gap.
Did you see Craig Richards extend Bivol a couple of years ago? Craig Richards being what some people might regard as a more high-end domestic level fighter, he gave Bivol a good argument and never looked like getting stopped.
I like the English kid in this fight. You know, I like him as a person. I think, and I like him as a fighter.
Yeah.
And I pray that he pulls it off. But I just think it's a big jump. But you know, I'm an optimist, and I pray that he can do it. But it's a big ask. You know, it's a big ask.
You want him to do it because you like him?
Of course, but I think he's a good kid. I think he's a decent fighter. But I think the jump of the level he's having to jump, it's not like he's coming off a momentous and he's gone up in stage. This is a real jump. Miracles happen, and
how does he match up style wise?
Yeah, and styles make fights, but it's a big ask. But I wish him really so much. My heart's with him.
If you're asking how they match up style-wise, Michael, Lyndon Arthur is predominantly a boxer as well. I mean, we see him beat Anthony Yard the first time just using his left jab, his left hand, because he actually injured his right hand clearly in camp, and he went through with the fight like fighters do. And he actually did a pretty good job beating Anthony Yard the first time, back in the pandemic, just with one hand. But he doesn't. You know, when you look at a situation and you're like, I don't know what he does better than Dimitri Bivol. Ideally, you need to do something better than the other guy, right, to have a chance, even if you're outgunned and even if you're an underdog. And I can't think of one thing Lyndon Arthur does better than Dimitri Bivol. It's not even as if Lyndon Arthur is a huge puncher. Julian McGowan's made the point that neither is Bivol. He's only got 11 stoppages and 21 victories. But, you know, it's interesting, Silk. I saw a quote from Bivol this week, and he was saying that he said, I don't go looking for the knockout. I enjoy the participation. You remember you said a fighter, as far as you're concerned, should always be focused on that early shower and trying to bring things to an end and take matters into his own hands. And Bivol was saying that he doesn't think
I didn't say it quite like that. I think you're getting lost through interpretation now. What I said was the intent of a boxer should be to not go the distance. That should be the driving intent from the first bell. But it doesn't mean, you got to be fighting like Pryor on the opening bell, Aaron Pryor, and attack, and not pay attention to defense, whatever it is. However way you do it, your intent has got to be to stop the guy before it goes the distance. Then if he goes the distance, you're working at such a pace and you're being so good that, you're going to get that. You're going to get that unanimous decision as well, or split decision, whatever it is. But your intent, your work is always to hurt the man. Your intent isn't to, sort of like glide along with everything.
But Bivol was saying that he appeared to be saying his intent was what you said it shouldn't be. That is apparently what makes him tick, according to the quote anyway.
Oh, well, you were like that too, right? You're from the same school. You like
I think half the time, most of the time, I was more focused on boxing with a nice flow. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so it didn't matter to you. I mean, some people aren't panicked by the distance at all. I mean, I never was, whether it was 15, 12, 10, 8 rounds in my third fight. You know what I mean? It just didn't matter. 12 rounds in my fifth fight. It didn't matter because your conditioning is there. And also because you don't know, it almost doesn't hurt you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Ahmed Ali has asked us for views on Frank Sanchez versus Mahmoudov. Which is another. I mean, Sanchez is another big heavyweight prospect. They were making a lot of noise about a few years ago. Then he suffered the setback, as I recall.
Who did he have the setback against?
I can't recall it. That's why I was being vague. Obviously, Thanks for letting me get away with that one. Jeez. Someone will tell us. I'm pretty sure Frank Sanchez suffered a loss, an unexpected loss on his rise towards. He was being groomed certainly for a title shot and was seen to be one of boxing's new big deals. You know, a bit like that Jared Anderson, who's got one of the main. He's got to be one of the main heavyweight names in the world today. Who's not part of this party tomorrow night in Riyadh. You know, but I've got to be honest, I've not really seen anything of Mahmoudov to be able to make that call on that particular fight. Julian McGowan obviously has, and he says Sanchez, good hands, easy win tomorrow. Mahmoudov is in a good fight battle of the unbeaten. He's strong, wastes very little. Sorry, he's strong, wastes very little, very strong. So our audience is more knowledgeable than we are, is the key takeaway, I think, from this. And between us, we will get there.
I can't wait for tomorrow night, actually. It kind of spices it up when we have this little competition. I like it.
Is that what you're looking forward to, the fights, or just this? Are you just looking forward to getting one over on us again?
No, there's nothing.
We should have a little something that.
Yeah, a trophy.
Like each week, we should get some form of, the winner should get some form of it seems like, I think we should have some kind of risk if we call it wrong, penalty of some kind or reward.
Somebody gets hit with the ruler.
But if I get it right this week, I really hurt you both on the podcast, because it would mean I'm far more, because my choices are very much out there. I've not only just to give you the choices, I've given you the exact way it's going to happen.
Well, and so did I. But
you would say that Daniel Dubois, whose engine and his heart and his motivation and his head and all of this is in such a bad place, would go and execute a man 100 pounds heavier than him who's unbeaten.
But 100 pounds, that could be a detriment.
That is Nostradamus.
We know that. That could be a detriment. Well, Nostradamus was when I called. Tell him, Ben.
Fury and Ngannou. Do you remember when Silk Stradamus said that Fury will turn up wearing green shorts with a slight cerise trim? No, he said he will knock him over. You know, Fury will get decked and he'll win an unimpressive points victory. You know, that's what he said. And he's never going to let us forget it. He actually honestly believes that makes him some kind of seer. He's that happy with that. You know,
and then we found out that he's fucking the Fury's girl who makes the shorts, and she told him to call and everything before.
There we go. Now
it wasn't a bad call, but I think you're more elated with it than I would be.
That was a pretty accurate call.
That's a great call. He knows the girl who makes the shorts, the green shorts, and then he was fighting a guy who they say arguably is the hardest punching heavyweight in the world, so he would go down. I don't think that's a massive.
No,
we've got an interesting suggestion here from Joe. The loser should dress like the winner for a show. So hat, patch, or glasses. You know, the eye patch. So yeah, maybe that would be the forfeit. You've got to actually replicate the behaviour and aesthetic of one of the others. So we actually swap the Sugar Silk and Stretch kind of personas around. Should be easy for an actor.
I think it could be more enriching in some way.
No, what we can do is this: it's a game of truth or dare. So if you lose, let's say I lose the first fight and you two beat me because it's 2-1 on the first.
Which is going to happen, yes.
If I lose that fight, it's a truth or dare. So you two can ask me any question you want, and I have to answer truthfully.
Yeah.
If I win, I can ask both of you any question, and the winners in this will be the audience, because we will, depending on the questions we ask, but they must be answered, and they must be answered honestly.
And dares could be good as well, because you might just say, call up the most famous promoter you've got on your phone, and call him pretending to be some kind of, you know, Armenian nutcase who's got a straw weight that he's just got to see. So dive, you know, something like that. We could end up getting prank calls.
I don't know if I like this game. I prefer just money.
But you prefer money, yeah. Well, that figures, you know. I mean,
What's that guy's name? I don't like
again.
Frank Warren's guy.
Say again?
What's the Frank Warren guy? I don't dislike him. I just don't think he's educated to talk about
Dev
boxing.
Sani. You know what?
Sani, if I lose, I should call Dev Sani up and say, pretend I work for Bed Bath and Beyond, and say, look, for your interview, and I would like to sponsor Joseph Parker with the fitted quilt for the next 10 years.
I actually think there could be some scope in doing prank calls to people in boxing live on air, and that could become quite a funny thing. But the trouble is, once you got known for that, people would see us doing it. We'd have to do it not live, wouldn't we? We'd have to do a recorded show, because otherwise people would be telling people they're on YouTube doing it now. But we should look into that. I'd like to do something like that, as long as we don't get barred from all these press conferences that we're going to be going to, you know.
The thing is, if you call somebody, they have caller ID, and so they know exactly who's calling. Like if I were to prank like Poison, like Junior Jones, you know what I mean? He'd look and he'd be like, "Oh, it's you."
Yeah, but you can withhold your number, I believe. You certainly can, right?
Yeah, you would star 89 or something. There's a code, and then your number doesn't star two numbers, and then your number doesn't come up, apparently.
Oh wow.
Yeah. That's something we could look into anyway. Maybe we could get like an auxiliary phone, a burner they call them. When you've got a phone for some nefarious purpose and you don't want to be traced, you call it a burner, right?
Well, okay. So if we're going to win, then how about like I don't know, let's say a foot massage or something like that. Like, you know what I mean?
But we're not in the same countries. That's the only problem.
Well, I have to give you a foot massage.
Yeah, and I have ugly feet.
Yeah. I was with Mike Ayala, you know, in San Antonio last year, and we were driving through, and you get the beggars on the roadside sometimes, don't you? There's this one guy who's a bit more enterprising, and he's got a sign saying $10 foot massage, or it might have even said $6. He said $10 foot massage, and he's waiting for the traffic to get a little slow. Mike Ayala stops, gives him $10 and says, "You owe me a foot massage," and then drives off. Yeah. Nice little cameo. Yeah. We had Mike Ayala on last week, as it goes, Gary.
Yeah,
we had Mike Ayala on last week, on Sunday, to talk about the Sonny Edwards Bam Rodriguez fight. It was a good show.
What was your thoughts on that fight, Ben?
I called that one correct. Ben didn't.
Yeah, that was my thoughts. Once again, I'm not worthy, and you know,
I would have had Bam. I would have had Bam on that all the way. Yeah.
Do you know what? Michael's got a very good eye for this. I'll say that much. It's just as well, huh? But no, I thought Bam Rodriguez was a revelation. I think I was quite close to Sonny Edwards insofar as I've known him for years. I actually went with him to get his license to Border Control. He asked me to go along as his representative to get his license. So I was in that kind of thing where I thought, no, nobody beats Sonny Edwards unless he fought Naya in Inoue or something. And I didn't realize how good Jesse Rodriguez was, and I realize now. So I thought he looks a really, really good fighter. Bam.
He looks.
Oh, sorry. I'll put my violin down now.
All right.
You know, it's funny. He just looks very difficult, doesn't he, to handle? You know, looks like very awkward, very difficult. He obviously got a heavy hand.
He looks a bit special potentially. You know, I mean, he's
got
a lot going for him.
It's a bit sloppy, the style. You know, it's nothing exciting to watch, but he's effective. Like, he's not someone you would want to emulate as a fighter. I want to be like him.
You say that. I saw him do some really good things in other fights. When he fought Carlos Quadras last year, he throws like a 1-2, shifts after the southpaw 1-2, and winds up orthodox and scores a knockdown with a right uppercut. That was subtle and I didn't know much about him, but I saw an interview with Shakur Stevenson, who I think is a good fighter, and Shakur said he knew him for a long time, and he said, I remember sparring with him
years ago when he was really small and he hurt me. But he said, forgetting the power, he said, I knew then he was very special. So when Shakur says that, he must be very, very good, this kid. You know, must have something. Yeah.
For sure.
Because
But,
Shakur's opinionated, you know, he doesn't rate that many of them, but he rates him very highly. Yeah.
In any case, gentlemen, we're going to convene tomorrow. Sunday night, right, at the same time, to see how this all unravelled. I guess if you guys might be, I'm not sure we should be talking about streams on the podcast live, but I guess you guys might be wanting to stream, so I'll be sending you one if that's the case. Yeah.
Are you kidding? I would not do anything illegal. I would not accept that.
Okay, so you.
Is this on? It's on DAZN,
DAZN.
right?
DAZN.
Okay. I have DAZN.
You know what's terrible? I have DAZN. I bought it, but I'm in Bulgaria, and you can't stream it. You can only stream it from the country you bought it in, which is ridiculous. So what if you travel? You can't watch fights. So
it is a bit annoying that. So so there's your mitigation, Gary, just in case you did use a stream, which you're not going to, and I'm not going to send one.
I wouldn't use the stream because I want the fighters to get the money, although the promoter's getting other fighters. But it's been difficult because I bought DAZN thinking I could travel and watch fights, but you got to be where you bought it. It's ridiculous. So, and then I tried to rejoin it on a different country, and it won't let me because I've already got an account. I mean, it's just such a method of they need to work that shit out. Yeah,
they need more money. That's all.
And they've hiked the price up for sure. Remember when it was $1.99 in the UK?
It's also on ESPN Plus, right?
I think.
Yes.
I don't know. Might be on TNT Sports.
No, ESPN Plus. I read it's on, but pay per view.
Okay, cool.
All right, I've got that as well.
Yeah, so if you've got ESPN Plus, it's on that. I think you might have to pay something, small amount, but
it's no extra. Sometimes you see these fights and it's like you're inquisitive, but they just don't feel like they're like you could easily wait until the next day to find out. Like the day when we were growing up, and it's like you could not. Part of it was you couldn't wait to find out what the result was, so you had to see it right then because it wasn't just the fight, it wasn't just the personalities, all that kind of stuff. You don't want to be the last one to hear the news that you know what I mean. That Sugar and Hearns fought. You don't want to be the last one when Duran and Hagler fought. You need to be in with the in crowd. You know what I mean? So you bought it no matter what. And these days it's kind of like there's that you're just arguing with yourself in your mind. You're like, should I? Is it really?
Is that part of getting older, Silk? To an extent where your passion's not quite the same. Seen it all.
No, I would no. Because each fighter has a different personality and they bring something new to it. So when you're intrigued by somebody, when you're interested in somebody, you can see that individual a billion times. It's always going to be the same, or somebody like them. They pose that kind of, they're a conundrum. Like what's going to happen is kind of like, I don't know.
So that's evergreen, where it exists.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, guys. That seems like a natural end. We can stay and have a quick chat because we haven't spoken to Gary for a while. Maybe plot some more of our world domination. But as far as the show goes, ladies and gentlemen, principally gentlemen, I suspect, thanks for tuning in. Please subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so already. We need more subscribers. We appreciate the kind of following we have up to now, and we will continue to serve you. If you're lucky, keep punching.
Bye, guys.